Hey, chiropractors, welcome to Modern Chiropractic Mastery with your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, where we discuss the latest in marketing, business, and professional growth with some of the leading experts in the industry. Welcome to another episode of Modern Chiropractic Mastery. This is your host, Dr. Kevin Christie, and today I am bringing you a solo episode, and we're going to talk about the difference between fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence and what that means for your chiropractic career. And this actually comes from the book that I highly recommend, and that is From Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks. And it's a phenomenal book. I think at any stage of life when you can read it, but I read it. I'm 44 now. I was 43 when I read it. And it talks about bridging that chasm from that first half of your life where you have fluid intelligence into that second half of life when you have crystallized intelligence. And I'm going to kind of break that down for you a little bit and what that means ultimately for your chiropractic career. Okay, and so let's dive right into that. And I've got a little bit of an article here I want to start out with. Is just going to read this a little bit, and this is from University of Utah, their health department. And it first talks about, and it kind of does a little breakdown of Arthur's book, and it talks about overcoming the striver's curse. And so I'm going to start there and read this real quick here. In his conversations with members of the medical community, Brooks hears a lot of concern about well being, not just physical health. By definition, physicians and healthcare professionals are strivers, Brooks explained. He defines a striver as someone who was identified as a high achiever early in their education or career. The world we live in convinces strivers that as long as they work hard, play by the rules, graduate from a top tier college, go to medical school, or get a PhD, and have a successful career, then they will be happy. On the contrary, Brooks explained, strivers tend to be the most disappointed with their lives after the age of 80. Researchers call this the striver's curse. Strivers expect themselves to live up to high standards of success year after year, but the inevitable disappointment hits and happiness levels plummet. In his research, Brooks studied a group of strivers who were happier when they were older. Why were they happier? He discovered a pattern rooted in the theory of two intelligences in the lives of happier older strivers. Know the curve you're on. Brooks discussed the different kind of intelligences that happen naturally at different periods of life. He explained fluid intelligence is what gives us working memory, unrelenting focus, and innovative capacity. However, the fluid intelligence curve peaks around age 30. Brooks went on to explain that crystallized intelligence, on the other hand, increases in our 30s and 40s and stays high into our 80s and 90s. This curve is based on what we know and how we synthesize information to explain highly complex ideas, often referred to as wisdom. Brooks says crystallized intelligence revolves around teaching capacity, mentoring, and managing others. Brooks discovered that happy older strivers willingly step from one curve to the next, from innovator to synthesizer. When we know which curve we're on, he explained, we can have the best years of our career, the most fun, greatest satisfaction, and highest levels of success. If people are reading your resume at your funeral, you did it wrong, Brooks said. And so it kind of gives you an idea, and he gives some examples in his book where, how come most of the rock and roll musicians or even musicians in general come up with their most creative ideas in their 20s. But then, I think of like the Rolling Stones and some of these other bands, they haven't come up with a new good song in 50 years, if not longer, but they came up with so many early on. And why is that? And he talks about he actually was like a classic he was in an orchestra. I forget what instrument he played, but he was at the highest level in Barcelona and all that. But he started knowingly that perfect particular profession starts to decline in their mid to late 30s, and they peak at their late 20s and early 30s. You think of like the tech entrepreneur and the founder. They're able to do stuff, but then as you move along, you don't necessarily see that later on in life. But what you do find is the tech entrepreneur becomes a board member and has a lot of wisdom and things of that nature. You see a lot of people that in certain professions become leaders and managers and executives, and it's a completely different type of intelligence. And if you ask anybody my age, it's like if you ask me to do the things I did in my mid late 20s, early 30s, even mid 30s to build my practice, I'd vomit. I couldn't do that anymore. But I feel like I can synthesize information a lot better than I did before. I wasn't just trying to create from scratch, and that's something that has helped me um, kind of get an understanding of how my career arc has been. And as I at age 44 try to bridge that chasm into that second part and utilize more of my crystallized intelligence to help chiropractors out, to help build our practice, to help mentor and things of that nature. And you got to think about that a little bit for your career as well, right? And it's one of the things they talk about in this a different article I was reading about this was essentially like the blank canvas versus the block of jade. In that early part of your career as a chiropractor, you are a blank canvas and you're trying to build from there. Whereas later on, you're more of a block of jade and you're trying to carve that out. And they even will reference that little bit of a sidebar conversation, but Eastern versus Western philosophies. In Western culture, it's kind of the blank canvas of keep on building, 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 adding to that blank canvas consistently. More houses, more cars, more things, more stuff, more fame, more notoriety. It's just building, and it's just massive accumulation of stuff, and that's how we deem, or at least think of success. Whereas in Eastern culture, it's more of the block of jade and what can you remove from that to carve out the essence of yourself, right? And that's what they consider success is um how exquisite can you make your life and how simple but effective in utilizing the wisdom that you know to get rid of all the fluff. And it's fascinating. And I think we sometimes see that in our careers. And I even saw that in my own, right? When I look back, I remember in my 30s, I actually opened up my own practice at age 30 exactly. Before that, I was obviously building my expertise and knowledge. And then I opened my practice. And then a year and a half later, I opened up another practice in Miami. Then we had corporate locations. We had six at one point. I was doing other things and, traveling for the NFL combine, doing a bunch of stuff. It was like this accumulation of business. And then added MCM and all that, and then I finally hit a point, I think it was probably late 30s, like 38, 30. Yeah, I think it was 38, where I realized, you know what? It's like I'm starting to synthesize what my career is going to look like, and it took that block of jade that I had built up by 38 and started to carve that away and, selling a Miami office and moving on from the corporate stuff because it was eating up more bandwidth than it was worth as far as profit margin. And it was profitable, but sometimes there's profit and then it's just not enough to where it makes sense. And you got that opportunity cost you always have to measure in life. And so I kind of chipped away and carved out, just have the practice in Boca, but own the real estate. And then obviously MCM is growing and I'm really putting a lot of focus on that. And so I feel like for myself, I'm seeing what the vision is for me crossing that chasm into the crystallized intelligence or that from one strength to the other strength, which is the name of that book, From Strength to Strength. And so that's kind of been my guiding light here. And then, you got to think to yourself, what does that look like for you as a chiropractor? And I've got concerns for that. And, if you're not building your practice the right way, I talk to a lot of chiropractors of all different age groups. And I would say the one that always is the toughest or the ones that feel the struggle the most is when you get into that middle age, let's call it 40s, but it could be late 30s, early 50s. You get in that middle age and you don't feel like you're jumping from the one curve to the next. And that visualization I got from this book really made a lot of sense for me, where a lot of chiropractors don't feel like they're able to do that. And that because that could look like, right, if you're see a really clear path of like, yeah, I'm going to be 53 and we're gonna have a practice that's gonna allow me to, work 3 days a week, 3.5 days a week. I've got an associate, I got a team around me. I'm able to show up to work and provide leadership and wisdom and be able to practice the way I want to. And I'm enthused to go to work. Profit margins are good. My life is looking good like that. Like you've done all the things and now you've put in the 20, 25, 30 years and now you're on that other curve. You're in that crystallized intelligence and utilizing those strengths. And you're able to invest money instead of time into certain things. You're able to delegate effectively because you got a team. That is really a good place to be in. And I talk to a lot of chiropractors that aren't seeing that vision. They're not, and this is what I think's happening to you is you didn't without knowing it, you're having a hard time seeing how you're going to jump from that first curve to the second curve in your career, and you need some guidance in that. And that's where I get a little, my concern for the seasoned veterans is they haven't done that. And then even worse than that, honestly, if you don't handle it now, because it's never too late, but if you don't address that now, I also talk to chiropractors that are 65 years old and don't have a practice that's sellable, and they didn't do enough to get themselves for retirement, and then they frankly have to keep on working physically pretty hard, even though in their heart of hearts they wouldn't really necessarily want to. Now some do, so there's definitely that. I know a lot of awesome chiropractors that are in their 60s and even 70s that have jumped to that other curve, that are still loving treating patients. They've got this wisdom they can project to their team and to their patients. And so that's awesome. They're still got the energy. And that's how if you ever see a 65, 70-year-old still practicing with energy and loving going to work, it's because they did jump to that next curve and they did build a team and they did build a practice that they enjoy going to. The ones that you don't is like they never unfortunately made that jump. Let's take a break from today's episode and announce our first sponsor. This is going to be Propel Marketing and Design. I've known Darcy Sullivan for years. We've worked hand in hand on my websites. I don't trust anybody else to do this search engine optimization. She does a great job. There's so much to it. A lot of the lingo and the words are beyond my comprehension, but it's just amazing work that she does. And if you're really going to get results with Google, you have to make sure your website is SEO optimized. And I really don't want you doing it yourself as a chiropractor. So you just have to have this type of stuff done. And if you're looking to get more organic online traffic that pulls in new patients, Propel Marketing and Design is currently offering chiropractors who listen to this podcast a free SEO website review. The free review will help you uncover methods that will improve your website and boost your search engine visibility. Head over to propelyourcompany.com/chiropractor and schedule your free SEO website review. You won't regret it. She gets great results. Your website needs this. Your search results need this. Head on over there to propelyourcompany.com/chiropractor to get your free SEO website review. My concern for the younger DC, and I've kind of made that pretty clear over this last year if you've been listening, is you know, if you do not build the fundamentals correctly, you then end up down a path to where you do hit age 40 and you didn't get to where you wanted to for various reasons. And there's a lot of concerns I have for the young DC. I know it's harder. I do believe there was a time where 20, 30 years ago, a higher percentage of chiropractors could do well just because it was a lot easier. Insurance paid well, low co-pays. In that sense, the insurance situation was so good at a certain point, a high percentage of chiropractors, even average chiropractors, could do very well financially. And really good chiropractors or really good personality chiropractors could make a killing. And I know that's changed. So now you probably have a lower percentage of chiropractors that are doing great. If you're in network insurances, if you're not careful, you're not building good systems around that. I know chiropractors that are in network with insurances that pay bad, but have built great systems and care around it and doing really well. And then there's a lot of chiropractors going cash. But to be a cash chiropractor, it's even a lower percentage of chiropractors are going to make a good amount of money to where you're going to pay yourself a professional living and build a team and, ultimately build a practice that brings in 350, 400, 500, 700, 800, $1 million a year. Those practices are few and far between in the evidence-based cash practice world. And that's concerning, right? I talk to a lot of cash-based chiropractic practices and a lot of them are at 200,000 a year revenue. And these are practices that have been going on for a while, 5, 6, 7 years, 4 years, 250, 275. And you just think about that number. If you're bringing in 250,000 a year in revenue and you have overhead, like how much are you able to actually pay yourself after overhead and taxes and all that? It's hard, let alone employ people, right? And so I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about the amount of time young chiropractors think they need to spend with patients, and they get into this vicious cycle and they never get out of it. But we got to get evidence-based chiropractors. We got to get practice owners getting to that 350,000 minimum revenue in a year, and then working your way up to there to 400, 450, 500, depending on scenarios and overhead scenarios. But and then you'll hear on some hands like, oh well, I'm going to keep it really really low overhead. And I'm going to rent from a gym. And again, I rented from a gym. I love the idea, but you have to have a path out of the gym, because I did the gym and I did the really low overhead. And when you're really low overhead, there's typically also a very low ceiling of revenue that is associated with that. So it's got to be this climb. And it's this topic here of like you got to have a steady climb out and really innovate and be creative and get revenue coming, so that by the time you have to cross this chasm into the into the crystallized intelligence, you have the revenue and profit and resources to do that, to hire the team. Because you may be 28 years old or 30 years old now and be able to spend 30 or 60 minutes doing rehab with a patient, or, also being the front desk person and also doing insurance and all these things. But I can guarantee you, you're not going to want to do that when you're 40 years old. You're not going to want to do that for 25 years. You're going to want to be a sniper by the time you're 40 years old, where you're coming in and you do what you do, and and you got a team doing the other stuff. Let's take a short break for one of our great sponsors, TrackStat. It is a new type of software plugin for your EHR that combines patient communication, marketing, automation, and statistics with patient and employee tracking. Built by chiropractors for chiropractors, it shows your team what to focus on each day. See patient visit habits, missing information, unpaid bills, insurance collection visit average, and more. Great visibility of data so you can focus on filling your office with your best patients. When you can see what your staff and patients are doing or not doing and take action accordingly, your profits naturally grow. Take TrackStat for a test drive in your office with our free trial. Not a techie? No problem. We can help. To get started on your free trial, visit trackstat.org and watch the demo. That is trackstat.org. And so that's my concern with the younger DCs, is they're following certain models that I do not think have longevity and are setting up a struggle to be able to cross this chasm when you get into your late 30s, early 40s, and you'll be very frustrated, and you'll blame the career, you'll blame the profession, and I know a lot of chiropractors are doing phenomenal in this profession, and so you got to make sure you are setting things up right, and there are people that can help you with that. And then I'll kind of leave you with this. Um, Arthur Brooks, the author, he explained that general happiness levels in the US have been on the decline since 1990. To verse this trend, he says individuals, societies, and employers should focus on the big four. So he's got the big four here, and I'm just going to read them and chat about it for a minute. One is faith and philosophy. Seek transcendent experiences, whether it's religion, spending time outside, or listening to music. Take time to zoom out on your life. It could be philosophy, right? There's certain authors out there, stoicism and certain things of that nature. It doesn't have to be faith per se. It is for me and it is for a lot of people, but something that is a transcendent experiences. You've got to have that. Two is family, whether traditional or non-traditional. Brooks says family life is the biggest predictor of happiness. Three is friendships inside communities. Loneliness is a serious crisis in our society. Brooks explained regularly connecting with other people impacts happiness levels. And then fourth, this is where I'll kind of chime in a little bit more. Attitude about work. As a society, our orientation toward work has shifted to be much less vocational, Brooks says. Striking a balance between work and life contributes to our happiness. And your attitude about work or about the profession is going to really be a big determinant of your satisfaction in life. And too many chiropractors are jaded about the profession. And but then on the other hand, I know so many chiropractors that absolutely love what they do. It's just the biggest um, driver of happiness in their life, aside from family and the other ones. But it's just you could take someone that hates their vocation or their career, and it's really hard to have a well-rounded, happy life. And if if you're one of the fortunate that is independently wealthy, you don't have to worry about the work thing. But that's not most of us. And so, having a great attitude about work and less cynical and more optimistic about it is better. And I think a big reason for cynicism within our profession of chiropractors, because it's not easy, but every, like every profession is hard. Like somehow we think, chiropractic is the only thing that's hard and struggling. I mean, I got friends of all kinds of professions. They're all struggling if they're or they're not. Like I can give you every profession, and I can give you people that are loving it because they're doing well and they're doing the things that have allowed them to do well. And then I can give you people that are bitching about the profession because they're not doing the things that could do. And so for every person that's struggling in chiropractic, I can give you another person that's doing really well with it because they put in the effort and they're strategic about it and they're keeping a level of optimism and they're doing the things, they're investing in themselves and they're growing. Let's take a short break from today's episode to tell you about the best decision I've made in my clinic in the last 10 years. And that has been adding shockwave therapy to our clinic. The outcomes have been really impressive. Certain conditions we were struggling with in the past, we're now seeing results with the shockwave therapy for that. And second of all, the ROI has been really good. When you make a big investment in something, you want to see a return, and we're seeing that return in clinical outcomes and in our investment, and that's been really nice to see. I chose Keenest Medical for 4 reasons. One is the technology is top notch. You have to have great technology. There's a lot out there that isn't quite up to snuff. The second thing is they have a really good clinical training. They have an exclusive partnership with Academy of Shockwave Excellence so that you can become clinically proficient in shockwave. You do need to get skilled at it. I think that's a big differentiator between practices that are getting great results and seeing the ROI is they have a great clinical aspect to that as well. So you want to get trained appropriately. Third is they have in-house service team for all of your technical support, which is key when you're investing in a machine like this. And then lastly, they have a very in-depth marketing and business support for you so that you can launch this into your practice effectively, that you can get that ROI on it, that you can get the clinical outcomes. And they also have really good financing options if you need that. So go to keenestmedical.com, KINAS medical.com, mention MCM podcast and receive a free shockwave in practice book with a purchase of a unit. So that's keenestmedical.com, KINAS medical.com, and mention MCM podcast. And so your attitude about work is going to be a big predictor of your happiness as you move along in your career. And so I just want you to start thinking about that. Like where are you at in your career now? It's never too late. And how are you going to bridge that chasm from one strength to the other strength? If you're already past that typical age for it and you're not there yet, then, there's people that can help you out. And this is something I think we do a great job of all levels of chiropractors, whether it's the young DC or the seasoned veteran, is to help them recreate their vision and then actually take steps to get there. And so if you are interested in having somebody help you out with that, you can let us know. You can obviously go to our website, modernchiropracticmarketing.com. But we try to make sure that we keep your vision in mind and help you get there with action steps. This is all I got for you today. Have a great week in practice and, check out that book, From Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And if you want to make the shift from busy, broke, and broken to time-free and cash confident, or you just want to continue with the exponential growth, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com. Look at the MCM Mastery tab, watch the short video on there, and check out what we are doing now for evidence-informed chiropractors. We are equal parts coaching and marketing done for you. Yes, you shoot some videos, we help you with campaign strategies and ideas and really become a thought leader in your community. You shoot those videos, you send them to us, we produce, edit, and brand them to you. Then we distribute them through all of your channels. We also take them and we turn it into one good blog per month. And every other month, we have Darcy Sullivan producing a robust blog with a topic that you pick from her database to help with your SEO. So we essentially become your content marketing agency to make sure your practice is always having ethical, elegant content marketing to help grow your practice. On the coaching side, we also help you with everything from marketing ideas to business, communications, finances, anything practice growth, and really try to help prevent you from being stuck on that island. And we hold you accountable. We have a great group of doctors that are just doing amazing things, and we look forward to help you out to take that next step in your practice. So again, check us out at modernchiropracticmarketing.com and learn more.